Hey, how you doing? This is Chris Williams. Wow, I'm super excited to be able to share something with you that I actually kind of came up with as I've gone through my career. And before we get started, I am the host of the World According to Chris podcast. That's right, we are the #1 podcast helping corporate busy professionals start, build, and grow a successful side business. If you want to find more about what we do and all the information that we share, you can go to the World According to Chris podcast on your favorite platforms. And so with that being said, I wanted to actually share something with you that I'm starting to see more and more. And I said, wow, I think we really got to start having an honest conversation about our careers and about how we go in and out of our careers and where our careers kind of take us, especially after the last 2.5 years. Okay. So what I would like to do is I want to kind of illustrate to you some things that I'm learning. So here's the way I look at it. How would you like to know what it's actually going to take for you to have less stress in your career and more engagement while you're at work? If that's you, I want to show you something that I've kind of learned throughout my personal career, but more importantly, I'm seeing it happening in a lot of different areas. And I want to kind of be more aware of it. And I'm gonna give you some things that you can do. And I also got a freebie at the end of this that you're gonna be able to leverage. And I want you to use that freebie because it's gonna help you out a great deal to kind of just think through and be aware. But there's a really big mistake that employees are making before getting fired, getting laid off, or being downsized. And what I want you to do is I really just want you to think about what it's like every day going to work as you. What things kind of annoy you? What things are you kind of noticing? Where some of us might have a little anxiety about the future, right? But there's something that I've noticed that some of us don't do very well. And I want to kind of talk about that today. And it's this one word that I want to kind of share. And this one word that I want to share with you is it's leverage. See, we don't really think about leverage as an employee as often as I think we should. There's some powerful ways that you can leverage your career, your job, like right now, to really start helping you get what I would like to call maybe, ahead of the game. But there's something that I noticed, and I want to kind of share this with you. I think right now there's many people who have a bit of added stress in their lives. And it comes down to something that I noticed. And this thing that I've noticed is becoming more and more of a problem, and we really need to get our hands on it. So let me illustrate this. So I think the one thing we're struggling with, and this is something that I know I've learned over my years of working, is having one source of income, okay? And so by having this one source of income, I've noticed something happens when you have one source of income. And I want to kind of talk about these, and you tell me if these make sense to you. When you have one source of income, I want you to think about the amount of things that are pulling at that one source of income. Okay, so one of them, we'll just start with some basics, right? So you might have your car note, right? That might be one. You might have your mortgage or rent, right? So mortgage, rent. And thankfully this doesn't have spell check, so don't worry about my spell checking. Let's see. You might also have utilities, right? If you're, lucky, some people might be trying to do some savings, right? There might be, some additional expenses like out to eat, right? There might be some other things like, I'm just trying to think of like basic things, right? So your phone, right? Or phones, obviously your spouse and kids and all of that, right? Some of us might be still paying on certain, let me go back. I would say some of us are probably paying on certain doctor bills, right? Credit cards, right? Let's see. What are some other ones? Let's see. You got gas every, week, right? If you're driving to work, you might have, maybe you got some things that you're paying at your kid's school, right? Some of you might actually be paying for like middle school or elementary or high school tuition, right? Some of them might be going to those types of schools. Let's see. There's other things. Ooh, here's a big one that happens, right? College loans, right? For you and your children, right? I've got a high schooler graduating in May. And so, there's that game, right? Just, all those types of things, right? There's insurance, right? There's insurance that you're paying for, right? Again, there's all of these things. Maybe, you're paying for a vacation you're trying to get to, right? Or, maybe you're paying for a wedding, right? But my point is that one source of income is being pulled in many different directions. And here's the thing that I think we've got to get a little bit honest about, right? In our employee life. These things are normal life circumstances. You know what's typically not the norm of conversation? Let's put this in a different color here. The one thing that I've noticed that is not a part of the norm of the conversations are what I like to call the hiccups. Do you know that right now, let me write this number down. The average American cannot afford a $400 mistake. What might a $400 mistake be? New tires, right? Well, need some new tires. Okay. Let's see. What might be a $400 mistake? And again, I'm using $400 as the average number, but of course, tires cost more than that. What happens if the water heater breaks down? Right? What happens? Where else are you going to have some issues with all of what's pulling, right? When you start talking about things like that? What about what happens to if the new tires, maybe a water heater? What happens if you have maybe you got to replace, something in the house? Like, let's say you've got to replace a pipe burst, right? Pipe burst at the house. What if there's, you've got to replace some carpet because something's going on, wrong in the house, right? But my point is, all these things here are unexpected, things, right? But they don't go into the normal everyday life of the things that you have. Now, some people say, well, why don't you just scale down, right, Chris? Like we could just scale down and we don't have to worry about all of these different things. And yeah, you could do that. But I think there's other answers that sometimes we don't think about. And before I get to the answers, I think I just want to focus on this mistake of saying, I'm holding on for dear life because if one of these things gets more or less than I'm used to, every other one is falling apart. Thus, that adds to your stress level at work. And we live our lives subject to the next 30 days, right? This is the reason why it is paycheck to paycheck. Because what's happening is these things are all the stuff that we're trying to juggle if you're on one source of income. Now, some people say, well, we got two sources of income. And Chris, guess what? I still don't make enough. I get it. Right? But when I first drew this out, it reminded me of something that I want to show you. Hey, I know you're enjoying this episode and I want to say thank you. But if you're like the people that I know, and I think I know you pretty well, you're actually enjoying this, and there's other people like you who would like to know that this is something that you pay attention to. So guess what? I need you to hit the subscribe button, but also hit the notifications bell so that way you always know when we're dropping something new. But also, which is more important, share this with somebody that you know is interested in this type of conversation and content, because I guarantee you will add a level of understanding and communication that you probably are looking for from those individuals anyway. And the other cool part is you all will be learning together. So go ahead and subscribe, hit the notifications bell now. And guess what? You'll constantly be reminded of when we drop new content like what you're watching right now. Let's get back to the episode. Let me show you this. So there's this stretch that we feel, this kind of pulling apart, and it's like it just seems like there's never enough. It feels like by the time you get paid on Friday, 80% of that check is gone, right? To this bill, that thing, right? Probably feels a little something like what used to happen back in the day. So in the medieval times, there were some barbarians who, when they would capture somebody and have to punish them, and they would make a public spectacle of them. My drawing sucks, but I'll kind of help paint this picture here. So what they would do is they would kind of put a person on a block, okay? And so on this block, right, what would happen is on this block, the person, and I'm terrible at drawing, but just go with me here, okay? So on this block, there would be a person that, you know, would be laid out on like this block stone, okay? And here's what would happen. On that block stone, they would tie the person's hands and feet. And when they would tie that person's hands and feet, what they were tying that person's hands and feet to were horses. I really don't know how to draw a horse, so I'm going to just do something to this effect, right? Go with me here. You'll understand why this is important in a moment, right? And so there's 4 of them. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here, right? And here's what they would do. When they would say go, each horse would run in opposite directions. And they will pull the person apart. Now that term was called quartering. Okay? So the punishment was quartering. And so when they would do quartering, this was a form of punishment. I can't spell today. This was a form of punishment that was really torture, right? But the French actually took that word and called it something else. The French actually called this distraction. That's what the French called it. The French called this version of torture that they actually watched these barbaric people do, they called it distraction. Well, let me just go back here and ask you a question. Doesn't that feel like distraction to you? I mean, we've really got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 things pulling at this one source of income. 14. Doesn't it feel like it's being pretty distracted right now if it's one source of income? Now, some of us might be working multiple jobs, right? Or some of us might, we're blessed to have another person with us, and maybe our husband or our wife is actually working as well, but we still feel the struggle. Well, this is just one mistake that I've seen, because there's something else I want to point out here that I think is really important for us to really consider, is that sometimes it's not the second job, right, that's going to get us there. And I know that might sound weird, but just go with me for a second. So let's just say that a second job is going to be but so many hours. So let's just have this conversation, and let's say our idea is we're going to go get a second job. And you could do this, and I think that's fair. But I don't think we always count the consequences of getting a second job. Second consequence is it's going to probably be you're going to be paid less than main job. Secondly, more time away from family. And some of us are considering this. It's not something new. Some of us have been considering this. The third thing is going to happen is that you're going to have less energy for home and your main job. It will decrease. Fourth thing is, this is something I learned the hard way myself. Stress actually increased. It actually increased. Because here's something that a lot of times we don't pay attention to. Okay, let me erase this, and I'm just gonna show you something that is the hidden danger in getting the second job. Here's what happens. That second job, while well-intended, and I don't knock anybody, I did it for many, many years and found out I couldn't still get ahead. Here's something that I recognized. What I recognized about the second job is because it paid me less, it typically was a lower task than the job I was paid my main job for. What do I mean? So it's kind of a stair-step effect, right? So on one level, you know, you might be paid, you know, for doing a simple task, right? And it's over and over and over and over and over again, right? Doesn't change, over and over and over and over again. Maybe, you know, if I remember being laid off at a certain point and going down to a retail job. So I did the same thing over and over and over again, right? It's a simple task. My kids work at a fast food restaurant. So they're just dumping fries, or they're just taking the order at the counter, right? But they're paid less. They're not paid as much as maybe what I like to call the supervisor of those tasks. Right? The supervisor of those tasks are paid a little more because their job is to ensure that the people who are hired to do the simple task are actually doing their simple task to standard. Right? So they're paid a little bit more, but then here's the other thing that I noticed. The supervisor of tasks does not get paid as much as the manager who manages all of the supervisors and all of the work that is going on within that operation. This applies to any McDonald's or fast food or any, you know, manual labor jobs, right? And then they're not paid as much as the operations people, right? So what is my point? That I might have my main job might be here, right? But I go get a second job and I'm paid like here. And then all of those other issues arise, right? So what's the you know, what do we do then? Where do we go and how do we handle, you know, our careers, and what should we do? How do we avoid this mistake? Well, there's something I talk about this all the time on my podcast. This is the reason why it's the most important thing to build you a perfect side business. Find something that can help you, right? But prior to, getting into all that, and you can learn more about that information I talk about on my podcast, all those other things. But there's something else I want you to understand. Do you know that when we make the mistake of only trying to make this work, these things work, when we make the mistake of putting all the pressure on that one source of income, we're putting pressure on our family, we're putting pressure on our spouses, and ultimately we're asking one source of income to solve a lot of the monetary problems or certain problems that we have, the things that are needed, right? Maybe there's even a period of time where, and I didn't even add this one, but think about this. Maybe there's a period of time where you even might have to pay for some counseling, right? And the reason why most people won't go to counseling is not because it's not important. It's because they can't afford it. Or what about medicine, right? So some people will avoid taking certain medicines because they can't afford it. My point is that I've realized that just like quartering, the French called it distraction, so as this happens to our income all the time. So what do I have for you? I actually want to share with you and give you an opportunity to learn about the 7 biggest mistakes that employees make before getting fired, downsized, or laid off. And this is just one of them. To get access to the other 6, I actually have a free document that you can actually get to, and I'm going to make sure that I add that below this video. So you're going to be able to actually leverage this document. And the cool part is by leveraging that document, well, here's what I want you to do. I want to make sure that by leveraging this document, you go learn about not only these 6, but guess what? You might be dealing with some of these, right? You might be actually falling into these other 6 situations that you need to learn to do something with. So what I want you to do is I want you to be aware of it, and I want you to make sure that you make some changes. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this in here right now. You can actually go to this website, twac.live/7 mistakes. Go to that website, go download the free PDF where I am unlocking and sharing the 7 biggest mistakes. This is one of them, but the 7 biggest mistakes employees are making before getting fired, laid off, or downsized. And what I want you to do is this. Don't just download it. Don't just put it in a corner. I want you to make sure that you leverage that document and go through your own current career right now of where you are and ask yourself, am I making some of these mistakes? And start asking questions. Find out some different ways. If you want more information and other things after you download that, don't worry, you can definitely send us an email. You can connect with me here after watching this video. Leave a comment down below and share with me which of these mistakes are actually causing you some potential issues right now. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it just at least made you think, right? And here's the other thing I want to point out, because some people may have watched this and went, you know what? Yeah, but I make a lot, and so I'm doing okay. Well, you're doing okay on one high source of employee income until it's no longer there. I've been that guy. I've been there, and I know what that feels like. And so I'm just saying, I think we need to take inventory. And I got some really cool things that I figured out, and all of these mistakes I was making in my career, right? And it will help you just start to think clearly about what you need to do. So go download. The link is in the comment section below. Make sure you go download that twac.live/7 mistakes, the number 7 mistakes. And I want you to go do something. I just want to empower you and give you an opportunity to be able to learn about what you need to do in order to take your life and your career to the next level. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. This has been The World According to Chris, and I hope you learned something here. If you did and you found this helpful, leave a comment down below. And what would be very cool is if you would leave a rating. Yeah, guess what? You could find this and much more content on our podcast. That's right. The World According to Chris podcast is on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it. We are there. You can tune in and you can find out all the things we're doing. Leave a rating. Share with us your thoughts and what you found to be helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Hey, if you're watching the replay, put #replay and then share some of your learnings from here. Thank you. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Hey, listen, if you're enjoying this episode, and I know you are, there's something that you could help me out with. So right now, I am looking for couples, yes, couples who do business together and have a thriving, successful business. Do you know somebody? Does somebody come to mind? Well, great. Here's what I would like for you to do. Make sure that you share this episode, or down below, there is actually a form that they can fill out and let us know a little bit about their business and what they actually do together. And guess what? You might be the reason that they're actually a guest right here on the World According to Chris podcast. That's right. You could be that reason. So if you know a couple who does business together and does pretty well, I'd love to be able to have them on the show and talk with them so that we can all learn together, because I am sure you're probably wondering, man, is it possible for me and my lady to actually build a business together? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, my wife and I are doing it together and we are absolutely loving it, but there are so many more couples and I wanna make sure that we highlight them, and I know you know some. So go ahead, let me know down below. Also, make sure that you get them the form down below and make sure that they fill it out. Let's get back to the episode.